Seen the world, done it all, had my cake now. Diamonds brilliant and
Hi everyone, Oritasho here, and today I wanted to do a tutorial on how to draw the human face in profile view. If you want to learn how to get better or just the basics of how to do a profile view for your comic or cartoon, or just to better yourself in art at all, or your anatomy, keep watching. Alright, so in order to understand this lesson, please refer to my first tutorial on how to draw a head in the front view. I will be using some techniques that I used in that and that I explained better in this tutorial that I'm not going to go about explaining in as much detail. So just like I'm just going to refer to my old tutorial as part 1. So just like in part 1, we will be going over the basics of how to draw a human head, step by step, detailed examples, and what you can do to help make the process easier. So, just like in my first tutorial, what you want to do is make a circle. Try to make it as round as you can possibly do it. Next, you want to add a cross, because what you're going to do is you're going to break the head into 3 parts, or sorry, into 4 parts, and then I'm going to list off what should go where to help you guys a little bit. So try to make the line as centered as possible. There we go. I'm happy with that. So once you have the circle split into 4, what you're going to want to do, depending on how long of a jaw you want the character to have or the age of the character, will determine how far down you bring the jaw. As always, I'm just going to draw a basic male character because I'm better at male characters. And I want to say you want to bring it down probably almost halfway from one of the 4 pie areas. Now, there are 2 ways you can do it. You can draw it straight down and just make a square. What I like to do is I like to draw it down and then curve it slightly. And then bring it to meet this. Now, as you look at it, it's like, oh, the jaw is really tiny. That doesn't seem right. Well, once you have it down, you will understand. One thing that I used to do that I'm sure a lot of people do, but it's actually the wrong way to do it. I mean, if you're happy doing it and your art still turns out nice, do whatever you feel comfortable with. I just know this is the way I used to do it, and I know since I changed, my art's gotten way better. But I actually used to make the circle, and I wouldn't make the center vertical line. I would just make the horizontal line. And what I would do is I would bring the jaw down, and then I would bring it to almost the back of the head. And then you look at it, you're like, oh, look how much room there is. That seems right. Well, actually, once you have the eye in place and the nose in place and the lips in place, you're going to have this huge amount of jaw going on here. And that's actually really wrong. Not to mention, when you finally put the ear, it's at the back of the head. Which, if you look at your own head, you'll see that the ear is in the center right here. And so, when you do it like this, it kind of throws the whole thing off, because especially when you start doing hair, because it's like, oh, well, the back of the neck is supposed to come out this way, and it's like, oh, wait a second, that doesn't seem right. You got this tiny little eye here, the nose, the lips. You know, I did it funny, but anyway. And then you got this huge jaw. And let's say you have a dainty character and you do something like that. It's going to look very unappealing. So anyway, I'm just going to get rid of this. back to what I was doing before. So now we're going to break the head into 5 sections. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just like in my first tutorial on how to draw a head in the first view, where I explained that certain areas will hold certain features. Well, it's the same with the profile view. Area 1 will hold just mostly the hairline. It can hold the eyebrow, sometimes the top of the eyelid, depending, the temples and everything like that. Obviously the forehead. Part 2, really just the hair. When you add the hair to the character, that's just going to be the hair. It can be the tip of the ear depending on how high you make the ear. Part 3 is where you're gonna have a lot of the features. But this is gonna have the eyelid, the eyes, the cheekbones, the under eye bags, the indent for the nose, and everything. Part 4, just gonna basically be the hair. It's gonna be where the neck attaches to the head, and it's gonna be where your ear is placed. One thing you can do with the ear is it can go at the bottom or it can go a little higher up. I would suggest making it a little higher up just because it will elongate the jaw a little bit. Because I know right now, like I said before, it looks like the jaw is tiny and you don't have enough room. Finally, part 5, the nose, the lips, the flagellum. I am never going to be able to say this word properly. I know what it is. I just don't know how to say it properly. The chin and the start of the neck. So now that we have our basic shape down, I'm sure you can see the head coming into play here. You have the back of the skull, the cranium. You have the jaw. So if I remove this, you can see it looks like an alien head, but that's what our heads look like when it's a skull. And I'm just going to make this a little thinner, or I mean a little paler so you can see. So just like in my other tutorial, a lot of people like to use this line for the eye. Some people will make the center of the eye in it. Some people will make it on top. I like to reserve this line for the eyebrow because it leaves plenty of room for the hairline, which when you have enough room, it will make designing hair, and when you finally decide to put hair on your character, 1,000 times easier. Take this from somebody who that was her biggest struggle when it came to the human head, was I had no forehead ever. I like to place down an eyebrow. Doesn't matter what shape it is. It can be straight. It can be like right on this line. Obviously, eyebrows have more curves. Don't bring it too far back because it's going to look funny. Reason why I like doing the eyebrows first is because it's a good placeholder, because it shows you where the eye socket's going to be. It will align with part of the cheek. And then it's a good starting point for the nose. And I do this with no matter what angle I'm drawing on. I usually always draw the nose and the eyebrows first before any other feature. So depending on the character's gender and everything, their brow bone may come out more. But I like to align the brow bone point right with this line here. And then I tend to make my foreheads a little more flat, just because that's just my style. But you make it however you want. The forehead does slope back slightly. And there are 2 ways to make a nose. One is simply add a triangle. Like that. Or a rectangle. Or not a rectangle. Half a triangle. Or I guess that's a triangle. What am I talking about? The other thing was a diamond. Try not to make it come down too far. Unless you're trying to give your character quite a long face, but then I would suggest bringing the jaw down a lot, because the nose is going to seem like it's taking up a lot of space, and you're not going to have a lot of space for the chin and lips, because there's a lot of features you have to add here. Anyway, I like having the nose come out. I tend to give my characters a little more stubbed nose. Ziz. And from here, the nose will connect into the mouth. I've seen a lot of people, my tablet's really sensitive right now, so it's like dragging my page everywhere. So I have to do some stuff like by hand or with my mouse. Some people will make the nose or the lips too high, and then they'll have this giant chin. Some people also make the lips too low, and then you're going to have no room for the chin. So try to weigh out the features of your characters and what type of features they're going to have. I usually always give my characters full lips. It's just what I do. So I have to leave a lot of room for the lips. So I need to take into account every other detail I'm going to do. Now, some of the features will change a little bit. I'm going to tweak them in later on in the video. Now, as you can see, I made my features too high, so my chin is really big. So what I can do is I'm just going to drag it down. There we go. Now, there are a lot of ways you can make the chin. You can make the chin rounded. You can make it pointed. I kind of like doing a little of both. Don't forget the nostril. Never... how do I explain this? You see where the line comes down from our original shape? That's kind of a good placeholder for the nostril. Try not to make the nostril too far back, because then the nose is going to look really big. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I still think the chin is a little too big, but you know what? Whatever. And then from there, or now that that's all done, I'm going to go to the eye. The eye is usually the last thing I do, which is funny because it used to be the first thing I do. Now, a lot of people will assume, especially when they watch anime, because I think when you draw anime, because don't get me wrong, I started off drawing anime too. So in side view, a lot of people will just make an eye like they normally would. And I mean, this looks right, kind of, if you haven't studied anatomy or those kind of things. But how it should be actually, because the eye doesn't look like this from the side. The eye's actually quite small from the side. What you have is you'll have your eyeball protruding slightly, because our eyebrows are just circles covered by our eyelids, like I said before. And then it'll downslope because they're going to meet a point very quickly. So here you can see that, hey, it actually looks like the eye is embedded in the head because it has actual dimension to it. We'll probably change it later on. And there we go. And you see how before it looked like there wasn't enough room for the face because the jaw was so small? Well, now we have lots of room for the face. Or the face looks normal. I can't talk. Anyway, for the ear, as I explained before, you can make it lower, and that will be perfectly fine. Some people will make it a little higher, and that's okay too, because what that does is it'll allow you to bring the jaw up higher, which will give it more definition. Just one thing to keep in mind, unless your character is like an elf or a mystical creature or something that has big ears, never bring it above this line. Your ears should never go past your eyebrow. I'm happy with his jawline. So I'm just gonna go ahead. I always have a hard time making ear shapes. And the ear, because it's profile view, you will see it, the whole entire thing. Whereas front view, you'll see it at a kind of like a different perspective. So, and a fun thing, an interesting thing to keep in mind with the circle and square thing is it really does help you keep things in proportion. Because if you follow this line right here, or if you, let's say, make a circle here, or a dot, whatever, you follow it down, you'll see like this would be kind of like the hollows of the cheek. And then this would be the cheekbone happening. Of course, it aligns with the mouth and the pointed part of the chin. And another thing you can use for reference to if you're having a hard time like placing the mouth is if you go straight across from this line, it aligns with it can show you where the center of the mouth should be. So if you're having a hard time figuring out where lips should be, you know, like you might make them a little too high or low. Why is not my backspace button is not working? I think I've beaten it too much. Anyway, so let's just get rid of this. And so we have a basic face, like a profile. I think it's in pretty decent proportion. So the neck, I mean, depending on your style, you might just do a thin anime neck. If you're doing more semi-realistic, and I guess even anime too, keep in mind that the neck doesn't just come straight down. The neck is attached to skin and muscle and everything like that. And it's actually quite... I really should do a tutorial on necks because necks are kind of fascinating in a way. Especially when you learn how to draw them properly. Okay, there we go. Just adding a little detail. He has his head jutting forward a little bit. So once you have the neck on, bleh. Okay. So once you have the neck on, obviously you'd remove this part, because if you keep that on, what it's going to do is it's going to make it look like he's like wearing a mask or something. So I have the basic shape. If you've been following along, you should have something similar to this. It may look different depending on your style, and damn it, darling, quit saying that. So I'm going to go in time lapse for just a little bit. I'm just going to add some detail and everything like that. As you can see, he changed a decent amount here on the left from the right. I made his chin a little bit smaller. It looks so big to me. I made his nose a little broader. I changed his eyebrow. I shifted his ear a little higher and a little tiny bit further back. So, I mean, there's not much for me to say at this point. I mean, now it's just going in and filling in all the details and everything even more and doing the line art. I will draw the hair. Like I said before, when you leave enough room for the hairline, it makes actually drawing the hair a world better. Wow, I can't talk to it. I just want to give him like just some Kira hair and stuff like that. I don't want to cover his face too much. liking this far. But I don't know. I might change my mind. It's not, it's still flat. I like having my hair a little more wild. Plus it's covering up a good deal of his face, which I kind of don't want to do for this tutorial. Okay, so I'm going into time lapse. Or I'm gonna line art everything, add a little bit of detail, some shadow, and everything to the eyes. So enjoy. I will see you guys after.
Walked into the room, you know you made my eyes burn. It was like James Dean, for sure. You're so fresh to death and it's kept cancer. You sound I grew up on hip-hop. You used to be better than my favorite sweater. And I know that love is mean and love hurt. Oh, I still remember that day we met in December. Oh baby,
so I'm all done. I went a little overboard. I don't know, I just really liked how it turned out, so I decided to color it and everything. Anyway, it's not colored very well, but I just wanted to, I don't know, I just wanted to have some fun with it. I think it turned out great personally, but once again, I started with just the basic little steps that I showed in the beginning of the tutorial, and I turned it into something really great. Hopefully somebody can learn from this and incorporate it into their own learning. I hope you guys liked it. If so, leave a comment below, and if you have any suggestions or anything that you would like to see, just let me know. My next tutorial will probably be how to do a head in 3/4 view. I might as well get all the head tutorials out of the way. But just remember, just because I do something a certain way doesn't mean you have to, but it's always good to keep an open mind. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.